Welcome to the Knowledge Gap. Join us as we uncover training challenges, explore learning culture, and envision the future of L&D. Brought to you by Realise, the knowledge platform built for L&D.
Hello, Jim. Thanks for joining us. How are you?
Hello, Natalie. It's a pleasure to join you. And good. Thanks. Yeah, very good.
Good. Thank you so much. Just so for everyone listening, if you could just kindly introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and I guess how you started on your career path.
So, Jim the person, I'm a family man. I'm a father of 4 grown-up children who are all seem to be in the process of producing their own children. So we now have 5 grandchildren. My passions are walking, reading, writing, and business actually features quite large there. So I still choose to be involved with business. Jim, the professional, I've spent pretty much all of my career in and around the education and learning marketplaces, leading a variety of organisations there. Which span back, I guess, over 3 decades. So I shouldn't linger too much in thinking about that. So I've been CEO of businesses that deliver internet-based learning type products, mobile learning, e-learning. Yeah. I was CEO of a business that developed the Western Europe's first and biggest online learning platform, which is known as UFI, or these days known as Learn Direct. That was quite a journey, which tested us on so many levels.
Yeah. Ace, well, I'm really excited to hear, some of the challenges that you might have faced as we speak later on in the podcast. And one thing that certainly springs to mind straight away is I imagine that you've seen quite a significant change over the years, but from when you first started to how things are now, it's completely different.
It is. I mean, the transformation is staggering if you stop to think about it. It's, an awful lot of change in a historically relatively short period of time. But I think we're absolutely in the infancy of the next major facilitator of learning, and that's AI. Mm-hmm. I think an awful lot of us are very excited about how that might break down some of the barriers that exist around more conventional learning management systems. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think one of the other reflections I would make is that the technology has changed so dramatically. I mean, in the early days of managing a business to develop, we actually got a contract with Logica. Logica were the main contractor to deliver UFI's Learn Direct platform. But we provided the learning software, and we were absolutely up against the technology. We were pushing the boundaries. And at one stage, it was really quite very much in the balance as to whether we would be able to break down. That was all about scalability. Mm-hmm. But we did break through that. That was a very, very scary period. But we did break through that, and with good partnership with main contractor and in particular with client, we overcome that, and they were able to launch what became Learn Direct, and it hosted hundreds of thousands of learners.
Yeah, how exciting! So, would you say that is one of the biggest challenges, if it's one of the first that springs to mind?
I think that was one of the biggest challenges in this particular area. I think that, I'm not a techie, but I led a technology-based business. So my wife would recount to you a day that we spent at Lord's. We had the picnic hamper and the bottle of wine and all of that. and I saw next to no cricket because that stage our client was really struggling with the software. And the truth of the matter is my role became to buy some time for our technical wizards to solve the problem. And
Yeah.
fortunately they did. But that felt like a very, very scary period. The other, I think the standards world, I think is absolutely amazing world, and uh, as I've mentioned, facilitated the uptake of learning management solutions. But I also think it today represents a barrier to modern L&D teams.
Yeah.
Um, it's quite a great deal of complexity is implied by that area. And what you, in my experience, tend to find is a bottleneck for content creation.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets in the way of you rolling out learning to, your hundreds or thousands of workers.
Yeah.
And I think that's where AI has a huge role to play, not to replace that world,
Yeah.
but to augment it.
Yeah. I just want to spend a moment talking to you a little bit about, learning culture, because I'm sure you'll agree that that is also a big challenge for many organizations, really adopting that culture of learning. How have you found that being at the other end?
I've always found learning and development people intelligent, inquisitive, keen to move things forward, but often ground down by inertia within their own organization.
Yeah.
And I think that, one of the biggest problems that corporates and institutions have is the leakage of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
We all have, staff churn, and very often, members of staff, and I'm not necessarily talking about senior members of staff, they walk out of the door and take their knowledge with them.
Yeah.
So organisations generally are not that adept at capturing that knowledge, and there is a role there for modern learning and development technology.
Mm-hmm.
And sitting alongside LMS, that's where I think we really can lead to a revolution in this area.
Yeah. I completely agree. And it, when I hear that, it always takes me back to when I first started off my career in L&D, which was in the dynamic world that is contact centers. And of course, you can't train everything. You can't cover every single scenario, of course, can you, in learning? And we fell at the trap of always buddying up people with the same experts in all the different teams. This is who to go to, this is who to go to for this, this, and this, or spend an hour sat next to them and you'll gain loads of knowledge. And every single one of those people retired at the same year, in the same year. And it was that was probably the biggest challenge in itself. But you're so right, we talk about learning all the time, but we don't spend enough time talking about knowledge and trying to figure out a way of capturing the knowledge that exists. Yeah.
I'll tell you the key. That for me, the key is to get your employees, your workforce engaged,
Mm-hmm.
and that is very hard when you've got a centralised L&D team, no matter what they do. And I know that they try and push this out through champions and their own networks in that organisation, and they do a great job, but it's really hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think getting individuals engaged with bite-sized learning, with somehow capturing knowledge, and in this social media-led world, where we have videos and reels, there's a huge role there, it seems to me.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we only have to bring it back to, what we do outside of work if we want to learn something. I'll ask the question to you, if you want to figure out, I don't know, let's say how to make a new recipe or how to build some flat pack furniture or something that you bought off Amazon, where would you go to Where would you go to learn how to do it?
Well, the flat pack, that's easy. I go to one of the family members and say, you do it, will you?
Yeah.
DIY is not my forte. Um, but to be serious, like probably most people, I Google it.
Yeah. Google will probably show you a YouTube video or something like that, or give you what, 5 or 6 bullet points, the main parts.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm into, I enjoy writing, so I've written a couple of novels which have been published in the last few years. Nothing to get too excited about. It has fairly exclusive readership. There are not that many people who bought them, but they are available on Amazon and so on. But the reason for mentioning it is I join writing communities online in social media, and there are, that community generates all sorts of knowledge, and they produce reels, and there is a retention and a circulation of that knowledge and understanding, and I found that quite really helpful.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I guess you won't have to worry about that disappearing as people, leave the communities or decide that that's not for them anymore, or whatever it might be. You've got access to what's stored in their minds, and using it for your advantage, of course, when you're writing your own novels. So, Jim, you've had lots of experience working with like LMS platforms or learning experience platforms. What have been some of the biggest barriers or challenges with, I guess, some of the limitations of those?
Usually, people who are implementing LMS systems or LXP are involved in quite complex organizations. So, the whole process of learning in itself is complex. You then add in the layer of standards-based content, and things tend to be bottlenecked towards a relatively small, not always very well funded team.
Hmm.
And whilst that is a good thing in that exists, and it's well, and it's growing in importance, it is also a shortcoming. And I mentioned earlier, engaging with the rest of the workforce becomes less than straightforward. And in a commercial enterprise, you might have, I don't know, hundreds or thousands of people out there who don't even sit in front of PCs all day,
Yeah.
and how can you engage them? And they do have a training requirement. Everybody acknowledges that. Are there better ways of doing it? I believe the answer to that is yes. And I believe that AI represents a huge opportunity. And just to amplify that, what I think AI can do, one of the things it can do, is help create small, bite-sized courses and take some of the legwork out of that for the L&D team.
Hmm.
It's probably best done in conjunction with L&D professionals. So
Yeah.
there's a human interaction, but it takes out, the old 80-20 rule,
Hmm.
80% of it is quite hard work and graft, and 20% is where the value is. And if you can get L&D teams spending 20, all of their time on the 20%, then there's got to be a huge benefit for the organisation, whilst at the same time engaging your workforce at the sharp end, whatever your business might be.
Hmm. Yeah. And I love the fact that you mentioned there around L&D working, or humans, sorry, working with AI, because I think sometimes, based on conversations that I've had before, people can be quite worried that we might become too reliant on AI, and I guess almost forget how to do our jobs. Like you might feel when you come back from a long holiday, you've not done it for a while, So yeah, I do think that's really, really important.
I really think there's an opportunity to enrich L&D professionals, time. And yeah, I think it will represent a huge opportunity for them. Of course, it will, at first glance, it's a threat. But I mean, that's always been everybody's fear whenever there's a technical revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just the latest one of those. And for, for me, embrace that new technology, understand how it might improve your lot to achieve your mission in life. And I believe that L&D professionals who are naturally inquisitive, naturally wanting to engage in the latest technology, I think they will see that positive role. And, I think it'll open floodgates then.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And it was only a couple of weeks ago that I came across a statistic that says that to create a 1 hour e-learning course, it will take 197 hours to build and create. And it makes you think, gosh, one, I have so much empathy for people in that space that are building the content. But secondly to that, in this modern world, who has got the time and the capacity to sit and engage in 1 hour of a block of e-learning? I certainly don't. I mean, I remember when I used to have to do e-learning in my old job, I actually used to look forward to it because it meant I was spending an hour off the phone. Could I retell you anything I learned from that looking back now? No, I just used to enjoy having an hour off the phone and not having to speak to customers. It was an hour used skiving rather than actually learning, because I wouldn't take anything of it. And now to know how much time and effort goes into creating that, it is quite alarming, isn't it? And I know firsthand, as a millennial, my attention span is probably about 3 minutes maximum now before I will watch something. If I'm not hooked, I'll move on to the next. And not many people can sit and engage in large blocks of learning anymore, can they? Just because the world has just changed so much over the years. Yeah. I've just got one final question then, a little bit more of a personal question for you. If you was to go back to when you first started your career, what piece of advice would you give to Jim?
Believer in, not waiting for the world to, deliver your future on a plate for you. I think it's our job as individuals to shape it in the way that we would wish to shape it. Yeah, sure, things will come along that will knock you sideways. Some will be good, some will be bad. But that's sort of life. So just embrace all that as positively as you can, and with the determination to succeed. And I'm also of the view that, if you achieve something, you need to celebrate that fact, then lift the bar higher. And my experience, people generally might sort of feel a bit daunted at being asked to do yet more, but usually we all like proving that we can do more and be more successful. So ambition is absolutely key to driving our economy forward, to helping our own careers, to find something worthwhile that we wish to do. And I think to the young Jim, I would have said, believe that, embrace that a little earlier than you did.
Well, thanks so much for being such a great guest and sharing lots of words of wisdom and advice as well from all the experience that you've gained. Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Natalie. It's been great to talk to you. Well, you do make me feel very old with your references to millennials and all the rest, but
sorry.
We're still in there and fighting and trying to help.
Absolutely, 100%. Thank you so much.
If you've enjoyed listening, like and subscribe for the latest episodes. Head to the website to create your free account or to learn more about Realize, the AI knowledge platform built for L&D.